Governments are needed at times of emergency. Governments not businesses. Governments are here to look after you. Governments represent the people. At the times of need, we need to be there. Not select few here and there, for everyone. That's what our government is about. That's what our Prime Minister has created. But more importantly, all that creation, when you talk about that, has been, from the Prime Minister on down what we're doing, none of this is possible without all of you. Keep that in mind. We must have the privilege to right now to be members of Parliament. But you are the family that got us here. Never forget that. So when we hear these gimmicks, right, I get really kind of passionate about it because it's a false narrative that's created. And I've seen the ripple effect of so many things. He goes to downtown East Side, making fun and of the people who are with mental illness, drug users and stuff, making fun of them. I've worked at downtown East Side. I can assure you, when you talk to the police officers, you can't when you keep punishing a health problem, all you're doing is you're clogging up the court systems. If somebody's going to do drugs and because they're now hooked, they're going to break in cars, break into your house to get that next hit. And if you treat them like that, you'll never solve the problem. So how are you helping people? So that's the level of thinking that needs to be brought in. We actually talk to the police officers when we put the changes in place. And I can go on and on and on. Because when you work at the grassroots level, whether you're a police officer, social worker, paramedic, firefighter, you see the impacts of society. Yet regrettably, you see the negative impact. What we want to do is lift people up. Because, when you lift people up and they're able to afford more, your economy grows. That's how we've been able to create all those jobs, by allowing people to have more women in their workforce. Right now, our problem is we need more workers. So when we go back to the supply issue, yes, that's why we're investing in housing. But we need also more people here so we can grow our economy, because we have less people, a taxpayer base, to support the people who are retiring. This is something that we knew, why we need to grow our economy very quickly. And when they talked about budgets, they will have to cut to achieve what they want. I can guarantee you. And when they talk about defense, I'm going to tell you about this. When I came into defense, the budget decline was down. It was at 0.9% of GDP. The military was suffering. We added $63 billion over 20 years, more than what Harper government had put in. And we locked it in for 20 years. The first time in history when we've had a defense policy that locked the funding in for 20 years. I knew that in next financial crisis, you take away from defense. But now when you see the security challenges everywhere, thank God we locked it in. What we want to do is to have proper diplomacy, is to have a constructive dialogue, whether it's the stuff that we agree on or disagree on, and regardless of what country that is. And I can assure you that that relationship continues very well.
Wonderful. Being in media, just last question, follow-up question, you can say that, please, that I can take the privilege of.
This is a press conference.
I was called, so I'm ready. My question is this, as you mentioned, the flight from Toronto to Amritsar, Conservative Party's leader, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, has done a program on it. That is one of the
program.
Yeah, the program is that
I want to hear this program.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So on Baisakhi, he has announced that once his government is be elected, from Toronto to Amritsar, the direct flight will be there. And while you're saying that, yes, your government is working, so are you going to take that,
So he has said he's going to have a direct flight, right? So just to let you know, hear me out now, okay? So when it comes to flights and stuff, we control in Canada which flights that we give access to, right? India will decide which airports they give us access to, okay? Okay? So when Pierre Poilievre says this, right, that he's going to do this, no. India will have to decide that. This is something, right? What he's doing right now, because there isn't a flight, he's spinning this little thing here that, oh, none of us are actually doing something about it, right? Which is absolutely not true. So he creates these frictions all the time, right? I can assure you, I don't know how many conversations I have with the Minister of Transportation, conversations with the Minister of Trade, right? Right now, there's going to be even more opportunities. I've had conversations, but we're not here to be able to say, hey, we went to this meeting, we had this conversation, here's what we're looking at, please vote for us, right? That's not what this is about. And if he says he's going to get elected, guess what, right? India has to decide on that thing. So when Pierre Poilievre does it, it's strictly for political reasons. We would love to have a flight that we're going to Amritsar. Not just from Toronto, by the way. We also would like to have it from Vancouver as well, okay? Let's not forget, okay? Canada's a very big country. I'm from Vancouver. And then Toronto is not the center of the universe either, okay? So we're advocating even for more, right? More importantly, we've actually looking at even more opportunities. We just increased down flights with UAE, with Emirates Airlines. That has also increased. That creates more opportunities as well. So we want to look at this. We want more Indians to come to Canada, look at things. We know at the same time, and here's the thing that what concerns me the most, and one thing that I've raised, the elderly, because they want to go. My parents are elderly. They want to have a more quicker access, right? So they don't have to get into the airport, get in the vehicle, drive 8 hours on the highway to get to their pin, right? So I appreciate what Pierre Poilievre is saying. Let him continue to spin this stuff. But listen, we have been working very hard when it comes to all the trade agreements that we have internationally. I can tell you the rhetoric that he's just spinning up is actually absolutely not true, because it's India that has to decide on what cities they actually give us, okay? Just look at the actual track record of what has been created. You want to talk about the economy? Look how many jobs have been created. Now, this does not mean there are challenges in Canada. Of course, we just went through a generational pandemic in Canada, around the world. Just imagine where we would have been. And I'm going to say this very directly, because some of my conservative friends who are in business said this to me. She goes, "Thank God you guys are in power, because we would not have received the support during COVID if the Conservatives were in power. That trickle-down effect would not have worked. Governments are needed at times of emergency. Governments, not businesses. Governments are here to look after you. Governments represent the people. At the times of need, we need to be there. Not select few here and there, for everyone. That's what our government is about. That's what our Prime Minister has created. But more importantly, all that creation, when you talk about that, has been, from the Prime Minister on down what we're doing, none of this is possible without all of you. Keep that in mind. We must have the privilege right now to be members of Parliament. But you are the family that got us here. Never forget that. So when you're door knocking, you are part of the family. You are the most important. Like in my riding, when people ask me, hey, you want to go do campaigning? My thing is, let's go door knocking, right? Either I'm fundraising or I'm door knocking. And these are important pieces of society. Like, oh, this politics. No, it's part of democracy. What is politics? Politics is democracy, right? And when I go to the door, I don't just say, hey, come vote for me. I don't say vote for me. I say, learn about me. Learn about who I am. Learn about what I have done, what my record is. More importantly, learn about the other candidates. But I am running because I feel that I will be a stronger voice for you, whether you vote for me or not. And that's who Ruby is. And I want to talk about Ruby because I didn't meet Ruby when she was running. I met Ruby when, unfortunately, the horrible situation with the person that went missing that was close to us in Australia. And she called me out, asking for help. She was actually contacting people. I'm so surprised how many people she contacted to get things moving for sport. And when you have that fire and desire inside you, right, you know you have a good representative. So when I found out that Ruby was running, I was really excited about that. Later on, I found out we were married too. So, but that's what you need. And one thing that Ruby does, and I learned from her, is how available she has made herself. And not only made her available herself, even when there are difficult conversations to be had. And I don't even say, my sister has acknowledged Ruby many times. And those of you know who my sister is, you guys know Navdeep Bain's a former minister, right? Yeah. And he's pretty confident, right? He's pretty arrogant, cocky, right? Going around, but for good reason. There's one person that if he will listen to without hesitation, that's my sister, okay? Because she was in Toronto. The reason I say this is because we all have families to support us, but the thing is we also get judged by our biggest critics are our families. And when my sister says and talks about Ruby in the way of who she is, she's willing to be there in tough conversations, and she has been. And saying sometimes when it's not fully understood of why or what we are doing, but to be there still to explain. It's not an easy thing to do. No one wants to be in an uncomfortable situation, but Ruby has always been there to explain it. And I want to thank her for that. She has never hid from anything. And she is, and since it is Vaisakhi, warrior comes in many different forms. Guru Nanak Dev Ji was a warrior as well. We always think of warriors come in different ways. Warriors are people who stand up for other people's rights, and Ruby does that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm just privileged to be in this role. But finally, I just want to be able to say, I'm not here just to thank you for your door knocking. Thank you for the fundraising, right? I want you to know that you are part of the family. We have a privilege to be part of you. We cannot do this work without what you do. But here's the challenge right now. We need to work stronger. We need to work harder. I am worried still, and this is not what Pierre Poilievre does with his fear-mongering and stuff, trying to scare people. What I'm here to tell you the reality. When minority groups succeed, there are always going to be people who are going to be not, when you fight against the different norms. So when we succeed, there will be more greater challenges. This is a time when you actually have to stand up and be more successful. The only way to do this when we're in these positions, like we're making significant changes in our public service, making sure that we have greater diversity, making sure that more women, and we're going to be unapologetically supportive of this. And when it comes to the economy, regardless of what somebody might say, look, if you want to look at the facts of how many jobs that have been created, when it comes to looking after the most vulnerable, look at when we came into government, right? We made sure that the candidate child care benefits, one of the reasons I actually got into politics, because I knew the impact it's going to have for people. Just imagine if we had this level of support when we first came to Canada. So when all those naysayers out there who are just constantly trying to build up fear, but they have no real solutions, say one thing to one community, but go some to another and say something else, just for the sake of trying to get enough support, and it could put the veneer on, based on who's there to talk to you. That's not the way to lead. To lead is to show who you are. And the Prime Minister does that everywhere he goes. Yes, we are very activist in our approach. But these rights from women to minority groups would not be here if it wasn't for people who took that cause on. So don't be fooled by people who just pretend, in my opinion, to do this. And I know this for sure. So people are proud of that I was in the military, right? Where was a conservative at that time to talk about this thought? The Reform Party fought against Baltej, wanted to be in the RCMP. What you also did when they found out that I was in, what they also tried to do against me. So don't be fooled by this. And I'm being very serious because more time goes on, we have a lot of work that's still left, which means we don't slow down, we have to work harder. And we're relying on you. If you want us to succeed as a community, we're not here to serve ourselves, we're here to serve you. And we need to make sure that we set the right future for our children. And we can't do it without you. So we need to even work harder. We need to make sure that we're talking to people. And making sure that if there are questions, come talk to us. We'll answer those questions. And we're not afraid of things. We're also not afraid to say, hey, listen, I see what you're saying, but that's not the right approach. I think we should do a different approach. Well, here's the thing, though. Even when we disagree, at least you have a voice. And that is a powerful thing to have that we never can lose. So I'm just very proud to be here with Ruby as members of parliament. And I just found out that I am much older than Ruby, as they constantly remind me. So I'm on my way out as they're coming in, and passing the baton on to them and the next generation is very important to me. And then just once again, just thank you everyone for everything you have done. There's no way for me to know what each one of you have done, but one thing I want to assure you is when you're knocking on those doors, when you're making those phone calls, that you're part of a massive machine of movement. The laws that we create, you are part of that. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been able to do all these things. Never forget that. So thank you again for allowing me.
No, thank you for that. Actually, you inspired me. See, we inspire each other. In our jobs daily, we have to remind each other what's important. And a few things that Virgi just touched on right now that I think is so important, and we'll get that messaging out to you. Like even, many of you that are on my riding association say we need to know what achievements we've made. And there's lots of achievements, and so we'll share that with you. Before our government came into power, we were 24th on the OECD list for child poverty, 24th. Now, we're the second least in the world. That is something to talk about. That is phenomenal. These are investments that we've put in. So I know Virgi talked about the Canada Child Benefit and the help and support that we provided during the pandemic. But not only that, even in this budget, some may say the grocery benefit is just one thing, we need much more, but it's a comprehensive approach.
Can I just mention this quick? Pure polio talking was a one-time thing, right? Yeah. Let me tell you what that means, okay? So imagine when we didn't have a lot of money, right? And I remind this because when I was a police officer, I see the difficulty that people have. Imagine if you got $500, $300, or whatever that might be, right? It's the difference between buying a bicycle for your child. It's the difference between putting him in a sport. It's the difference between taking a little bit of vacation. That one moment in time could be the difference between that child getting the inspiration to do something bigger. And it can't be discounted in this. That's what that means. Sorry, guys.
No, you're right. You're right. It means a lot to a lot of people, and sometimes we can't let people downplay that. But in terms of a comprehensive approach, it's a part of a childcare plan. No other government has done this before. This is monumental. Like our universal healthcare system, which we've now invested more than any government into providing the provinces more funding, almost $200 billion into healthcare, new money that's being put in so that we can improve our systems. We know, we've heard from the grassroots that we have problems with our healthcare system. No one is denying that there haven't been growing challenges, but it's a sense of pride. When we go around the world, our universal healthcare system is a sense of pride, and it had been deteriorating. So we've stepped up and given more. We've gone into areas where, federal governments have never gone, into affordable housing for those that need it the most. Federal government, the Harper government, didn't build affordable housing. We're the first government to do that. Not to mention, once again, dental. The dental plan, that's a first. Now, these things are going to go on forever. It is going to define what it means to be Canadian. And it is going to make our future generations proud to be Canadian. Because last year, we made it dental benefits there for those under 12. By the end of this year, it's going to be available for seniors, for those under 18, for those with disabilities. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to keep going until dental is available for everyone that needs it the most. Childcare, more women are in the workforce because of the programs that have been put in place. I picked up the phone, Virgie, and called, and I got my staff to also call all the childcare centers around here, and they're telling me that families are saving up to $600 to $700 a month for each child, a month. So when you combine all these savings, you're looking at $11,000 to $12,000 a year in savings. That's huge. That is huge. So don't let Pierre Poilievre and them go out there and say, oh, it's $300 or $400. No, look at all of the things that we're doing to try to create stability. We know it's a difficult period right now. We know that the world is facing inflation and issues that we haven't dealt with for a while. But we're going to be there to deal with them with you together, and we're going to get through this. And I know for sure, and I know Minister Sajjan knows, and that's why we've taken this step and joined the Liberal Party of Canada and become members of Parliament through your help. It's because we believe that this government, more than any other government, will do the right thing to support Canadians and to be there. So thank you once again so much for being here today.